There I was, standing on the hillside above the excavation in the Valley of the Kings, with the faithful Mahmud describing the dance of the 7 veils to me in great detail, when a shout arose up from the workers below us. Sensing an important discovery at hand, since I have a sixth sense about these things, I scurried downhill to see that a step had been uncovered in the sand. It turned out to be the entrance to the Temple of Amon Ra. I took the trowel from the Boskafir and cleared the sand away from the rest of the steps myself, revealing the entrance to the temple. The seal of the necropolis was intact on the door seal, indicating that the temple had not been disturbed. I knew that fate had brought me to the discovery I had been seeking for so long. Tireless after my exertion in clearing the staircase, I used a sledgehammer to break through the sealed doorway. Within lay the greatest accomplishment of my considerable career. Hidden within the darkness, untouched for thousands of years in the isolated temple, lay the magnificent Dagger of Amon Ra, the greatest discovery of modern archaeology.
Good show.
Magnifique. Very impressive, Dr. Carter.
So, that's when you heisted it, right?
No, I didn't heist it, you annoying little man. I took it out of the temple and showed it to the workers, who immediately fell upon their faces, all 350 of them, to show respect for my accomplishment.
That's hard to believe, Dr. Carter. Egyptian workers have proudly worked the archaeological digs for many years. I would not think they'd exaggerate their respect for you to such an extent.
But then you weren't there, were you, Mr. Nagier?
Well, no, that's true.
And when was the last time you were in Egypt, Mr. Nagier? You seem to have lost some of your accent.
Well, it has been several years.
I thought as much.
Your discovery really was quite a remarkable achievement, Dr. Carter.
Was remarkable, Dr. Carrington? You mean it is a remarkable achievement. There has never been anything like it before.
Quite so. Correction noted, Doctor.
If you will all be excusing me, I see a man I need to speak to.
Certainly, Miss Delacroix. Certainly.
Boy, did he bet. She's some dish, ain't she?
Yes, those French women really have something. I don't think my wife would ever have done it in a mummy case.
In my vast experience of women from different lands, I tend to agree with you, Mr. Nagier. I balked when a certain French woman suggested we have a deep conversation on the back of a dinosaur, but I was pleasantly surprised by the results.
Yes, Miss Delacroix is certainly the cat's pajamas, as the Americans would say.
Yeah, we does come up with some good sayings, don't we?
Quite.
Good Lord, I hadn't realized a woman was present. Please excuse us, Miss Bow.
Oh, I wasn't actually listening to you gentlemen, Dr. Carrington. I just happened to be standing here. Excuse me. Hi, I'm Laura Bow, and I'm covering this event for the Tribune Society news column.
Good evening, Miss Bow. I'm the Countess Lavinia Waldorf Carleton. Please be sure to spell my name right in your story.
You ask yourself.
I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him, but he sounds simply charming. I imagine a man who runs a newspaper must be quite wealthy, Ah, truly a man of great ambition and integrity, Dr. Carrington, what about him? I know very little about the man.
Now that's odd. I could have sworn Mr. Dorian said that you met Dr. Carrington in a taxi when he arrived on the Andrea Doria.
Yes, or what if I did? I mean, yes, I did meet him that night. Our families are, old allies from the time of the War with Roses. I felt obliged to meet him upon his arrival. Noblesse oblige, you understand. Well, to tell you the truth, dear girl, I find him to be a crude, uncultured ruffian. Oh, I do enjoy a bit of crodfollow with my tea. I'm sure I've never met him, Miss Bow. I've never met your father, dear girl. He's a policeman, you say. How delightful. He seems a perfectly dreadful little fellow. Let's not discuss him. My, she is unusual, isn't she, dear girl? I can't stand that horrid ferret of hers. I'm sure it hates me. I am not interested in discussing that little trollop. Oh, Mr. Heimlich is simply dreadful. I think his tiny taste of authority has gone to his little head, don't you, Miss Bow? Oh, he's a darling little man, just darling. Why, that's me, silly child. Countess Lavinia Waldorf Carleton. What a lovely boy. He has such charming manners, and he's so handsome,
You ask yourself.
I'm afraid I haven't read your newspaper, dear girl. I try to avoid the news. I find it distressing. We live in such terrible times. Well, they have a job to do, I suppose. Oh, heavens, my dear. My laundry is done by my maids.
Question.
The docks are dreadful, rough places, Miss Bow, simply dreadful.
You ask yourself.
I think the Lion Decker is simply divine, don't you? New York is simply charming, Miss Bow. It has so much culture for an American city. Miss Bow, you must be sure to avoid such dens of iniquity. They can only ruin a young lady's reputation. Oh, you jot everything down. How very industrious of you. It's wise to observe what goes on around you, dear girl. I always do. Well, I've seen many glasses tonight, dear girl. It is a party, you know.
Countess, has 1926 been a good year for you?
Oh, no, dear girl. It's been absolutely horrid. My darling husband Sterling died this year, you know. I don't know what I'll do without him.
I'm terribly sorry to hear that, Countess.
Well, aren't you the sweet little thing? Thank you, my dear.
What do you make of the theft of the Dagger of Amon Ra, Countess?
Oh, it's horrid. Simply horrid. What sort of creature would make off with a priceless work of art, I wonder?
Do you have any ideas about who it might have been?
Oh, my, no! I try not to associate with dreadful people, dear girl.
Do you know much about Egyptology, Countess?
Only a little, dear girl. I find it quite diverting.
You see a short, elderly woman dressed flamboyantly, and you suspect expensively, and sporting a grotesque amount of makeup. In fact, when she speaks, you notice small flecks of base coat chipping off of her jowls and tumbling onto her furred collar. This man looks like he's very low on moral fiber in his construction. His eyes dart around the room nervously, as if he's expecting someone to jump on him. His bald head reflects the overhead lighting. This snappily dressed man looks like an accountant, but there's an air of mystery about him as well. It's a semi-happy partygoer. It's a semi...
How are you, Detective O'Reilly?
Just fine, lassie. You're looking lovely this evening. Now there's a man who doesn't know his head from a hole in the ground. Sure and begorra, anyone who'd allow his paper to print letters criticizing the police farce is downright addled. That fella's just too big for his britches, that's all I have to say. Someone ought to take him down a notch or two. He's got too many brains, that one. He thinks he's better than us all. Why, that's me, silly girl. Detective Ryan Hanrahan O'Reilly, at your service. He's the wee pest who likes to hang around the station house. In fact, I thought he was supposed to cover this so-called event. Oh well, no big loss. That man is a few cards short of a full deck, but he always presses me pants, just like me sainted mother used to do. I think I've heard of your father, over in New Orleans, isn't he, lass? They say he was pretty good, for one of those southern boys. That man is a human weasel. Stay away from him, lassie. That woman is downright unnatural, Miss Laura. I'd stay away from her if I were you. She keeps asking me if I've got any scars, don't you know? Now there's a lovely girl. A real lady, don't you know? He's not much of a security guard, if you're asking me. How could I trust a man who allowed a thief to waltz right in here and steal one of the exhibits if he didn't do it himself? He hasn't even got an alibi for the night of the burglary, since he was here alone. I don't like that wee fella. Think he's light in his loafers, don't you know? Now there's a slippery old bat. If she's royalty, then I'm Rudolph Valentino. He seems nice enough, but I wouldn't trust anyone who works on the docks. They're pretty rough company for a wee lass like you. The Tribune is a hotbed of yellow journalism, young lady. You should find yourself a better place to work. Have you considered being a secretary?
Detective O'Reilly, the Tribune is a fine, upstanding paper. And no, I don't want to be a secretary. But it would be none of your business if I did.
Temper, missy. I thought you reporters were supposed to stay objective.
Objective doesn't mean without opinions or loyalties, Detective.
Well, all I have to say is I'd like to see you in the middle of a catfight, lassie. You'd win, claws down. New York's police force truly is the finest in the world, and don't you forget it, lassie. They're pretty good. They always put just enough starch in me shirts. The docks are dangerous places, lassie, infested with as many cutthroats as there are rats. I'd stay away from there if I were you. It's all right if you like that sort of thing. I think it's a waste of time myself. I'd rather be down at the pub knocking one back with me buddies.
Do you like living in New York, Detective O'Reilly?
Begorra, yes, girl. 'Tis truly the land of opportunity. Just look at me. Mark my words, lassie. I'll have every one of those dens of iniquity closed up by the end of this year. Oh, you've got a little notebook. Isn't that cute? Well, if you solve the mystery of the missing letter opener, we'll make you an honorary police girl. So do you suppose you're going to find lots of important clues with your little magnifying glass, missy? Let me know if you find anything important. Do you always carry a water glass around, lassie? Were you lost in a desert as a girl?
Detective O'Reilly, has 1926 been a good year for you?
Oh, most definitely, lass. I've put away more criminals this year than you'll ever see in your whole life.
That makes it both a bad year and a good year, doesn't it, Detective? I mean, if there were that many criminals on the loose to begin with, we must be in some sort of crime wave.
You see it your way, lassie, and I'll see it mine. If you ask me, missy, they're blowing the whole thing out of proportion. Begorra, you'd think that something important had been stolen.
You don't consider a priceless Egyptian artifact to be important?
Listen, girlie, if I chased down every petty theft that occurred within the nastier segments of the population, I'd be working 30 hours a day.
I would hardly call the Lion-Decker Museum a nasty segment of the population, Mr. O'Reilly. And if you're referring to our Egyptian visitors, shame on you. And don't call me girlie.
By me father's whiskers, you're a fiery one, Miss Laura. All right, I won't call you girlie, little lassie.
Do you know anything about Egyptology, Detective O'Reilly?
Enough to know it's a bloody waste of time. Sifting through all those old bones and rotting tombs. Better to let the dead rest, don't you know?
You see a tall Irish gentleman with red hair who acts like a cop. You eye this woman with a certain amount of jealousy. Her fashionably high cheekbones, impeccably styled hair, and sultry eyes make you feel mousy and naive by comparison.
Ryan, I'm having the hardest of times keeping my hands off you.
Not here, Yvette. There's too many people.
They are not important. You are the most powerful man here, my Ryan.
What about that Carrington guy? He's president of this museum.
The doctor, he is old and weak. You are the young one and strong.
And what would you be wanting, Miss Bow?
Oh, well, I thought I heard you call my name.
You must have been hearing things. I didn't even mention your name.
Oh, sorry. I've got to be going now. Excuse me. You must be Dr. Ptah Sheptut Smith. Nice gold ankh you're wearing. This is quite a party, isn't it?
I find it distasteful to celebrate thievery in the name of science. The artifacts in this museum's Egyptian collection do not belong here. They belong in Egypt.
That's only your opinion.
It is the truth. And the thieves who rob Egypt of its ancient treasures will find death waiting for them. Amon Ra will have his revenge.
I see. Well, nice weather we're having.
I do not know this individual. You dare to mention his name to me? He is the blasphemous temple destroyer and tomb robber who stole the Dagger of Amon Ra from Egypt. He will know the full force of the curse of the pharaohs.
The curse of the pharaohs? What's that?
The defilers of the great Egyptian tombs and temples will all die as a result of their crimes. The gods themselves will punish them. The great Amon Ra will snuff out Peepin Carter's life as easily as I can crush a dung beetle under my shoe.
How will this happen?
Amon Ra works in mysterious ways. You will have to wait and see. I had hoped that Dr. Carrington would listen to reason. I had made another appointment to speak with him about the return of the Dagger of Amon Ra to its rightful home. But this seems futile since it is no longer in the museum.
Another appointment? You spoke to Dr. Carrington once already?
Only by phone. He denied Egypt's claim to the dagger. It was hoped that a personal visit would convince him of our sincerity. But the situation has changed since then. I believe he's investigating the burglary of the Dagger of Amon Ra. Perhaps, if he'd stopped drinking, he might have a chance at finding it. I still have some trouble with your language. I do not know this Crodfeller. It is some sort of local delicacy. I do not understand the term low-fat. Perhaps it is because I learned English in Egypt. The English longbow was a formidable weapon. The English won the Battle of Agincourt against formidable odds because they were equipped with longbows.
I said John bow, not longbow.
I've never heard of a John bow. It must have been an American invention. Never heard of it. Dr. Miklos is very well educated for a woman. I would like her more if she were an Egyptian. Ah, a delightful girl. I keep asking her if she'd like to be my second wife. She is so very feminine and seductive and charming and attractive and...
Okay, I get the idea.
You should try to be more like Yvette. Men would like you more that way.
Men like me just fine the way I am.
That's what you think. I find you quite annoying. Heimlich is that annoying guard who works here. His fanatical devotion to his occupation is admirable, but he seems lacking in his mental capacities. Ramses I was pharaoh during the 19th dynasty, from 1307 to 1306 BC, but Ramses II made more of an impact on ancient Egypt. Ramses II was responsible for gargantuan construction projects which left his mark on the face of Egypt for thousands of years. I admire his great works and hope to emulate his feats someday.
Actually, I was referring to Ramses Nagia.
Nigeria's... never heard of him.
Are you sure you don't know him?
No. I mean, yes. English is such a difficult language. I have only met her briefly, but she seems to have a sincere concern about my problems. A charming woman.
Do you know Steve Dorian? He works at the docks.
I don't associate with common dock workers, madam. Never heard of it. So far, I find the police in your country to be very ineffective. The Egyptian authorities would have captured the dagger thief by now, and they probably would have cut his hands off.
Cut his hands off?
It is the proper punishment for thieves. Tradition demands it. We find it very effective in our country. I have not been in this country long enough to discuss the merits of your laundry establishments. I arrived there on the Andrea Doria 1 week ago. If I had known Dr. Carrington was aboard that ship, I would have spoken to him at length during the voyage.
Since you're new here, what do you think of New York? Isn't it exciting?
It reminds me of Cairo, except that it's colder here and the people are obnoxious. My English is not good enough to speak easy, but I think it's improving. Taking notes is a typically American thing to do. In Egypt, we remember everything we need to know, Because our mental capacities are greater. I forget nothing. It should come in handy for examining things. However, I would warn you to be careful about what you choose to examine. I can get my own drinks, thank you.
Would you say this has been a good year for you, sir?
No. The great treasures of my country's past are leaving Egypt in a flood greater than the Nile.
As I understand it, artifacts only leave your country with the approval of the Egyptian Antiquities Service.
Bah! The Antiquities Service is a tool of the British. If they want to steal something, they steal it, just like the ancient tomb robbers. But they will pay, just as the tomb robbers paid whenever they were caught.
That almost sounds like a threat.
I, Patash Uptat Smith, do not threaten. I merely carry out the will of the great Amon Ra.
Have you heard anything about the burglary?
No?
Do you have any idea who would want to steal the Dagger of Amon Ra?
It has already been stolen once, from Egypt.
I can see I won't get anywhere with you on this topic. Since you're an expert on the subject, what can you tell me about Egyptology?
The study of ancient Egyptian history is of the greatest significance. Many of our modern religious customs originated in the ancient world. The time of the great pharaohs and of the great Egyptian gods was the peak of human civilization. Our modern society is a mere shadow of its former glory when compared to the pinnacle of human development reached by the ancient Egyptians. They knew the truth, and the truth was Amon Ra. He led Egypt to world domination.
Aren't you exaggerating just a teensy bit?
I would not expect you to understand. You are not an Egyptian, and you are a woman.
What's that supposed to mean?
I grow tired of this topic. Speak of something else if you wish to continue our conversation.
You see a rotund, ruddy-complexioned man in a fez. Despite his bulk, he moves with dignity and grace.
And what were you doing when that fancy dagger was being stolen then?
Let me see. I was sleeping in my hotel room.
You don't sound too sure about that.
I haven't been sleeping too well since I arrived in this country. I'm tired, so I'm not thinking too well.
You're not sleeping well. Would you be having a guilty conscience then?
I do not understand your meaning, Mr. O'Reilly. Perhaps it is the English. It is such a curious language, not as clear as the Egyptian.
Well, you say the dagger is what brought you to this country. If I were in your position, I'd be tempted to steal it.
Steal what has already been stolen? The Dagger of Amon Ra belongs to the Egyptian people, Mr. O'Reilly, not to Dr. Carter, not to this museum, and not to this country.
I'd be watching what you're saying, Dr. Smith. You're digging your hole deeper with every word.
Amon Ra will seek his own vengeance on those who have removed his dagger from Egypt. Amon Ra does not require my help.
You say you were sleeping when it was stolen. Were you alone?
That, sir, is none of your business.
Ah, that's where you're wrong, Dr. Smith. It is my business as long as you're a suspect in the burglary.
A suspect? Do you Americans have no shame? I'm here to gain the return of the dagger by legal means. Ask Dr. Carrington.
I have talked to Dr. Carrington, and I know he told you no dice.
The matter is not settled until the last camel drinks from the water of the oasis.
What's that? Some kind of Egyptian double talk?
Excuse me, sir, but I see a turkey leg on the buffet table that requires my attention.
You see a rotund, ruddy complexion.
Good evening, Dr. Mayclose.
Oh, good evening, Miss Bo. Mr. Augustini? I have only met him once or twice at social affairs. He seems to be very competent, that one. Dr. Carter is an odd one, if you ask me. He is so very interested in gaining personal glory. He doesn't seem to fully understand the beauty of what he has discovered. Why, the Amon Ra artifacts are a symphony, a tribute to the wonders of death. Ah. But we have already... Dr. Carrington is a quiet one. I don't see him very often. I'm certain, however, that he must have a poetic soul.
What makes you say that, Dr. Mayclose?
I have seen him walking amongst the dead in the Egyptian exhibit late at night. I cannot blame him. It's better than moonlight on headstones. Ah. Ah, yes, Detective O'Reilly. I can't say that I'm overly fond of that one. He has little respect for the wonderful things in the museum, and he is too firmly rooted in this life. I do not believe that he likes the dead at all. Can you imagine? I am sorry, but I don't know what a crodfaller is. Ah, is it some sort of pastry? Oh, yes. He runs the laundry down the way. He always manages to keep the pleating in my silk shrouds just right. No, I'm afraid I don't know Detective John Bow. He is your father? That's nice. I admire the police. They get to spend so much time with the sick and the dead. And in New Orleans, yet with those beautiful cemeteries. An odd little fellow, that one. He reminds me of one of the specimens in my dried rat collection. Me? How sweet of you to ask about me, my dear. Well, I consider myself a simple woman. Just an echoing museum, a few hundred dead things, and a ferret for company, and I could be happy for the rest of my life. Well, with a little male companionship from time to time, that is. I find Yvette to be a charming young lady. Some people around here don't appreciate her zest for life, but I find her quite refreshing. Ah, Wolf. He has some lovely scars, doesn't he? Just between us girls, I think he's dreamy. Mr. Najir is a very quiet one, isn't he? And so polite. Sometimes I wonder about him, though. I see a certain light in his eyes, like Daisy's, when she's about to kill a spider. I think I like Mr. Najir. I don't know if I trust that one. She screamed when she saw my beautiful dried rat exhibit and cried out like a baby when my ferret Daisy bit her ankle. Foolish woman. Ah, the young stevedore, Stevedorian? He is a charming young fellow. I imagine he has some wonderful scars from working on the docks. Ah, yes. Mr. Smith is a well-respected Egyptologist. He truly loves the desiccated bodies of his ancestors, you know. I think he is a good man.
Do you think it's possible that he stole the dagger?
Possible? Most definitely. Probable? Most unlikely. If he had stolen the dagger, he would be on the first ship back to Egypt. Then again, perhaps he's too clever for that. Or he's lingering behind to wreak his bloody revenge. The Tribune is an excellent paper. You are most fortunate to be employed there, Miss Bo.
Oh, why thank you, Dr. Miklos.
Stick with the Tribune, my dear, and you will almost certainly go far. Their article on dysentery in the Herdanos of Spain was simply marvelous. Oh, I find the police fascinating. They spend all their time trying to stop crime and murder, and yet they shoot people themselves. Interesting, isn't it? I'm sure I don't have an answer for that, Miss Bo. I love to walk along the docks on a moonlit night and feed carrion to the rats. Such friendly little fellows. The Lion Decker is my home now. I never want to leave it. Its musty hallways and creeping shadows are in my very blood. Can you imagine spending an entire lifetime drifting through the land of the dead? That opportunity is mine, and I treasure it. But we have our...
How do you like living in New York, Dr. Miklos?
Well, I had always heard it was a city rife with crime and danger and murder. So far, I have not been disappointed. Yes, I am aware that many people enjoy going to such places. I personally do not. I find them too noisy, and the people are too lively. I would like to get a good close look at some of those hedonist livers, however. That bootleg alcohol is quite strong. Ah, you are wise to carry a notebook, my dear. One never knows when one may see or hear something that will change one's life forever. You are wise to carry a magnifier, my dear. You miss so many of the good things if you don't look close enough. Imagine never seeing pores or lice or fungus spores. Did you know that bacteria can survive on the rim of a glass for 3 days, my dear?
So, Dr. Miklos, has this been a good year for you?
I would say yes, very good. I came here from Greece just a short time ago, and look at me now, curator of the largest private museum in New York.
I'm happy to hear that, Dr. Miklos. Tell me, have you noticed anything unusual at the museum lately?
The whole museum is unusual, my dear. We are surrounded by dead things. Just walk around for a while and breathe in its wonderful atmosphere. Why, the whole place smells of death.
I just may do that. Have you ever noticed any dead things that, well, don't belong?
My dear, every dead thing belongs. Dead things are our friends. But we have...
Dr. Miklos, do you have any idea who would want to steal the Dagger of Amon Ra?
Very funny. Everybody, silly girl. It's a priceless artifact. Not only that, but it is said that the blade is an unknown alloy that can slice through bone like butter.
I suppose that was a silly question after all. Let me rephrase that. Do you know of anyone with any particular motive?
Well, Tut Smith and Ramses Najir both wanted it very badly to return it to their homeland. But they are both so upset, it hardly seems possible that they could have done it. Then again, perhaps they are just fine actors.
You're an expert in Egyptology, aren't you, Dr. Miklos?
Well, yes, I suppose I am. I have been fascinated with the ancient Egyptians since I was a tiny girl. They loved death like you Americans love baseball.
You aren't friends with that swine, are you?
Well, no, I'm not actually.
Good. You do well to stay clear of that Egyptian pig. That bloated maggot ought to be horsewhipped and sent back to the dung-laden wasteland he came from.
I get the impression you don't like him very much.
You could say that, yes.
Why not?
I'd rather not say. Do you always pry into people's personal affairs like this?
It's my job.
You're a professional busybody?
I'm a reporter.
Same thing.
I am a representative of the Cairo Museum and the people of Egypt. My mission is to recover what rightfully belongs to us, not to Peepin' Carter or this pathetic museum.
It's a happy party goer. It's a happy party. It's a happy. It's a happy. It's a.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Miss Bow. Mr. Smith is a very intelligent fellow. We have become friends of late. I always enjoy the company of one of my countrymen.
My, what an intense gentleman he is! Why, he's practically obsessed with the dagger.
This snappily dressed man looks like an accountant, but there's an air of mystery about him as well.
If you want to know my theory about it, I think it was stolen by an Egyptian. No offense to your people, Mr. Nagier, but I think there is a secret sect of Egyptian sun worshippers who have sent an envoy here to steal the dagger.
Countess, I hardly think that's likely. Secret sects like you're describing haven't existed in hundreds of years.
Oh, really? And what makes you such an authority on secret sects, Mr. Nagier?
Well, I am only expressing my opinion, madam. I'm certainly not an expert on the subject.
Quite so. I think my theory is as good as anyone's, darling, and I heard it from a reliable source.
Oh? Who was that?
Never mind. Let's just say my source has never been wrong before.
There's always a first time for everything, Countess. I still find your theory far-fetched.
Since you seem to be listening, Miss Bow, what do you think of my theory?
What? Oh, I definitely think it's worth considering, Countess.
There, you see, Mr. Nagier, the press takes me seriously.
Of course, it is kind of far-fetched.
Well, I never! Excuse me.
Oh, did I say something wrong? I'm sorry.
Tut Smith? That's gotta be an alias. Sounds like a pharaoh on the lamb. So that's the deal, Countess.
I'd rather not talk about it right now.
Yeah, no kidding. DeWall's got ears around here. And so does certain nosy reporters, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Now, if you'll excuse me, I simply must speak to Dr. Carrington.
Sure thing, Toots. Well, ain't you the hoity-toity dame these days? I almost didn't recognize you with your clothes on.
Excusez-moi, am I knowing you, sir?
Ziggy's my moniker. You gonna pretend you doesn't know me?
You are making the joke with me, no? Perhaps you have confused me with someone else?
I ain't joking. You're Yvette Delacroix. I know that body of yours anywheres.
I am sure I am not knowing what you mean, Monsieur Ziggy.
Oh, I get it. You's is worried one of these hi-hats is gonna hear us, right? Oh, okay. I'm clued in. We can talk later.
Are you enjoying the culinary delights this evening, Miss Delacroix?
This food, it is adequate. I do not eat so much. This way I maintain my figure, no?
Ah, yes, and a lovely figure it is, Miss Delacroix.
Merci, Dr. Carrington. You are so kind.
I feel we've known each other long enough. Please call me Archibald.
As you wish, Archibald. I am yours to command, as always.
Miss Bow, is there something I can do for you?
Oh, no. I was just admiring Miss Delacroix's dress.
Merci, Miss Beau. And your gown, it is a bit out of date, but charming nonetheless.
Thank you, I think.
Well, if you ladies will excuse me, I must mingle with the guests.
Well, well, look what the leprechaun's dragged in.
Hey, now watch what yous calls me, O'Reilly. I don't know what that leprechaun thing is, but I don't like the sound of it.
I'm sure you've been called worse things, smart guy.
Only by low-class type poisons, O'Reilly. By the way, ain't you afraid of being seen with me?
Cops talk to stoolies all the time, and I was wondering what you're doing here.
I'm a big patron of the arts. That's the kind of high-class guy I am.
You don't even know what the word patron means.
I does too.
Okay, what does patron mean?
Hey, ain't that the countess I see over there? I needs to talk to her.
It's a fanatically happy partygoer.
Dr. Smith, he is very concerned about the dagger. He has been trying to get it back from Dr. Carter ever since he arrived.
Do you think he could have stolen it?
Perhaps it is possible. Then he could have stayed around so we would not be suspecting him, no? One thing I am admiring about the Egyptian man is the way he is treating his woman, with the strong hand and the firm words.
Well, that is the proper way, as our culture teacheth us.
Which is not to say our culture is primitive by any means. Our civilization has evolved over thousands of years, so our methods are quite well thought out and practical.
And the Egyptian man, he is very skilled in the private matters as well, no?
Well, speaking for myself, I feel it is my sacred duty to be knowledgeable in all matters that concern me.
I've certainly had no complaints about my skills, Mrs. Delacroix.
Ah, Miss Beau, I didn't see you standing there.
Ahem. Well, I hear another turkey leg calling my name at the buffet table, so if you'll excuse me.
The turkey leg, it sounds good to me also. I'll accompany you, Dr. Smith. Countess, they tell me you were married to the last museum president, no?
Yes, darling, that's correct. Sterling Waldorf Carlton was such a charming man, and so wealthy. My heart is just an empty void without him.
Yes, Sterling was such a nice man. It's too bad that he's worm food now.
Ew! I prefer to think that Sterling is still with me in spirit.
Oh, I'm sure his body is crawling with maggots by now. But if his spirit is with you, let me know, because I'd love to see it.
It is hard to lose a loved one, no? I understand you were only married this short time, Countess.
Yes, I had only 2 short but charming months of married life with Sterling before he died.
And how long had you known this man before you were married?
Oh, we met just 1 charming month before we decided to get married. It was love at first sight.
Where did you meet him?
Oh, I had only been in this country a few weeks. when I met Sterling on an offshore casino ship. It's quite legal to drink and gamble there, you know, and all the right people attend. Sterling was so charming. He just swept me off my feet.
This Sterling, he must have had the large broom.
It's just a manner of speech, my dear.
Sterling was a wealthy man. You must have inherited a nice fortune, Countess.
The money doesn't matter, darling. Actually, there's an annoying problem with the estate right now. It seems Sterling was changing his will when he died to give me more money, perhaps. Anyway, I'm sure my attorney will take care of the problem.
Too bad you can't dig him up to finish his new will.
Yes, quite.
The archaeology, it is such a masculine profession. Breaking into the ancient tombs with your sledgehammer, thrusting your way into the treasure chambers, touching the gold artifacts. It is also stimulating, no?
Yes, well, when you put it that way, I guess it is rather stimulating being the most important archaeologist of all time.
And it is such a burden to bear this greatness, no? With such pressure to perform, you must be perfect all the time.
Yes, you have a unique understanding of my problems, Yvette.
Your problems, they are obvious, no?
Very kind of you to say that, but there are many who misinterpret my actions. They don't understand the pressure of having famous relatives in the same line of work, and having to compare oneself to them all the time.
But the Tutankhamun find, it is nothing when compared to your discovery, no?
Correct. I didn't realize you knew so much about archaeology.
I know many things, Dr. Carter.
So I've heard. Maybe we should discuss archaeology sometime.
I'd love to hear about the work you do, Dr. Carter. Perhaps later tonight?
Will you be working late tonight?
Oh, yes. I think everyone will be here tonight, no? There is much to be done to prepare for the opening of your exhibit tomorrow.
I was planning a break for tea around 3 a.m. if you'd like to join me.
It sounds wonderful. Perhaps you would come by my office then?
I'd be delighted.
It is so gracious of you to take the time to speak with me.
Nonsense. Think nothing of it.
How will I ever repay you for this courtesy? I know how busy you are, Dr. Carter.
I'm sure we'll think of something. And call me Pippin.
It's a happy party goer.
I told you to stop bothering me, you camel driver.
Dr. Carter, I will stop bothering you when the dagger is safely back in Cairo.
I don't know if you've noticed, but the bloody dagger has been stolen from the bloody museum, you great twit.
I see no reason to exchange epithets with you, Dr. Carter. I am aware of the burglary. I am also aware that no evidence was left behind, and the dagger case was not harmed. In fact, I think you removed the dagger from the exhibit.
Me? Me? And what bloody reason would I have to steal my own bloody dagger from my own bloody exhibit?
The dagger is not yours, Doctor. It belongs to the Egyptian people. As to why you stole it, I do not pretend to understand your twisted American thinking. Perhaps you wanted to keep the dagger for yourself, in your own private collection.
Perhaps I should ask why you're shifting the blame onto me, you insignificant peasant. It would be very clever of you to steal the dagger, then stay about to start rumors about someone else stealing it.
Only an archaeological thief would make such an accusation, Doctor. Now I'm sure that you stole it for yourself.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
Did not.
Did.
Did not.
Did.
Gentlemen, please.
Who asked you?
Mind your own business, you nosy reporter.
But
I have more important things to do.
Our discussion is far from over, Dr. Carter.
That's what you think, you malodorous buffoon.
are you having a nice evening, Mr. Dorian?
Well, it's much, much better with you nearby.
The stevedore looks a little more refined than you'd expect. He's also rather attractive.
Your touch makes me tingle all over, Miss Bow. I'm afraid I don't know the gentleman. I don't get out much. That particular gentleman is a little too full of himself for my liking. I suppose he has reason to be, though, being a famous archaeologist and all. I don't know anyone that important, Miss Bow. Oh, wait! I saw him on the docks. He came in on the Andrea Doria. He had the biggest, heaviest trunk I've ever seen. You know, it smelled kind of funny, too. Oh, he's a decent fellow, I think, but sometimes I wonder if he drinks a little. Excuse me, are you having trouble with your throat, Miss Bow? Maybe you should drink a glass of water. I've never met the fellow. I do my own laundry, Miss Bow. I've never had the pleasure of meeting your father, Miss Bow. Oh, that dime store hoodlum used to lurk around the docks all the time. I haven't seen him in a long while. Isn't she a charming lady? A little eccentric, but I think that's colorful, don't you? She's a lovely girl, Miss Bow, but she makes me just a little nervous.
Oh, really? You think she's lovely, do you?
Well, sure. A man would have to be blind not to see that, right?
I think she wears a wig. She looks cheap.
Her hair looks real to me.
How come she makes you nervous? You're big enough to take care of yourself.
Well, she's kind of pushy, if you know what I mean.
No, I'm afraid I don't. And I don't think she's your type.
Could we talk about something else?
I suppose so, since this topic seems to make you nervous.
Oh, he's an okay Joe, I guess. He sure takes his job seriously. He's a studious gentleman, isn't he? I wish he'd been there to help me when I was taking trigonometry. She's some really rich lady. I saw her on the docks one day. She met Mr. Carrington, as a matter of fact. Why, that's me, Miss Bow. Steve Dorian, stevedore and student. Remember? Oh, he's that hot-tempered Egyptian fellow who was shouting at Dr. Carter that day on the docks. He seems nice enough now. Maybe Dr. Carter just said something to set him off that day. That's a fine paper, Miss Bow. I try to buy a copy for my mother now and then, when I can. She loves to read the advice columns. I really admire the police. They put their lives on the line just to keep us safe. I do my own laundry. Working at the docks is just a temporary thing. I'm going to support my mother and myself as an artist someday, as soon as I graduate with my art degree. The Linedecker is one of my favorite places in the whole world. I've never seen so many wonderful things in one place before.
Do you like living in New York, Mr. Dorian?
I suppose so, but I've never lived anywhere else, so I don't have much to judge by. I know some folks like to, but I never go to places like that, Miss Bow. You carry a notebook, I carry a sketchbook sometimes. I used to anyway. The boys at the dock tease me about it.